You know, the best investment stories don't always start in a fancy boardroom or with some high-powered analyst report. Sometimes they start in the most unexpected places. Today we're going to dive into one of those stories, following a single company for nearly a decade, all through the eyes of the regular retail investors who discovered it on an internet forum. This is the story of how a group of online detectives uncovered a hidden gem. Let's get into it.
So, this is where it all begins. January 28th, 2016. A user, Varun Didikar1, posts on the Value Picker forum about this little company called Shilchar Technologies. And this one post, just this one little spark of curiosity, literally kicks off a multi-year investigation by a whole community of investors, all trying to answer one question. Is this tiny, unknown company the real deal?
So what did they see? What was so special? Well, back in early 2016, Shilchar was like a nobody in a massive industry. But that very first post laid out some fundamentals that were just impossible to ignore.
I mean, look at this. This is basically the holy grail for a value investor. You've got a debt-free company with fantastic return ratios, which just means it's super efficient at making money. Half its sales came from high-margin exports. Plus, they were paying dividends, and the founders still own almost two-thirds of the whole thing. On paper, you're looking at this and thinking, okay, what's the catch?
And get this, to put it all in perspective, the entire company was valued at just 100 crore rupees. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. Keep that number in your head because it makes the growth that's coming up even more mind-blowing. It's like finding a supercar engine in a go-kart, just sitting there waiting to be found.
Okay, but we all know it's not that easy, right? Finding the good stuff is just step one. The real work begins when you start digging for the dirt. And this forum community, they didn't just pat each other on the back. They immediately started trying to poke holes in the whole idea.
And boom, right out of the gate, a user named Gaurav Agarwal brings up the elephant in the room, competition. Seriously, how is this tiny 100-crore company supposed to go up against global giants from China and Korea? These guys were making cheaper, more advanced stuff. That's a huge question mark for sure.
But the original poster came back with a really smart point. He basically said, look, it's not about taking them on directly. He argued that Shilchar's small size was actually its biggest strength. It let them focus on a super profitable niche. And this is where the strategy gets really clever.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. See, Shilchar wasn't trying to fight for these massive government contracts for giant transformers. No way. They were carving out their own specialized market, making custom transformers for the booming renewable energy sector and zeroing in on those high-margin exports. They weren't even playing the same game as the big guys. So while everyone's on the forum debating back and forth about competition and strategy, the biggest clue, the real smoking gun, was actually buried deep inside the company's financial reports, just waiting for someone to find it.
People with sharp eyes started noticing this one little line item on the balance sheet, capital work in progress. Now, for those who don't know, that basically means the company is building something new and expensive. But what was it? The company hadn't said a word. They were totally silent.
And then, bam, October 2017, a user named Multiplier777 is just, casually reading a routine credit rating report and finds the answer. And it wasn't some minor upgrade. Shilchar was secretly in the middle of a massive 3.5 times expansion of its entire production capacity. This was an absolute game changer.
But here's the thing about this community. They stayed critical. Even with this incredible news, Gaurav Agarwal came back with another really sharp point. He said, hey, that's great and all, but why didn't they tell anyone? And he was right. Hiding something this big, well, it raises some legitimate questions about how the company is being run.
All right, so the cat's out of the bag. Shilchar was making this huge, transformative bet on its own future. But now came the hardest part for any investor, the waiting game. You have to wait and see if that massive bet is actually going to pay off.
And look, this was not a get-rich-quick story. Not at all. It took years of patience. The new facility came online in 2018. You start to see a little bump in the numbers in 2019. But the real aha moment, the big payoff when the thesis was finally proven right, that didn't happen until 2022, when the company posted results that were just off the charts.
And here it is, the moment of validation. June 2022, 6 long years after that very first post. The user Itsnitin confirms it. The massive investment, the CapEx, was finally reaping huge benefits. The story that this community had been tracking for all those years was finally, truly unfolding. So that brings us to the present day. And what a journey, huh? From this tiny, undiscovered company on a forum to a genuine leader in its market. It's nothing short of incredible. Let's take a look at what Shilchar has become.
Wow! Just take a second and look at that. This is the state-of-the-art Gavasad facility today. This is what that secret expansion project turned into. Remember that 100 crore company we started with? This is what it grew into. It's a pretty powerful image, isn't it? And this chart, which is actually from the company itself, tells an even bigger story. That 3.5x expansion, turns out that was just one step. The whole journey has been this series of ambitious moves, taking them from 1,000 MVA, which is how you measure their production power, all the way up to a planned 14,000 MVA. That's a 14-fold increase. Just insane ambition.
So when you put it all together, the Shilchar of today is everything those early investors hoped it might be. It's a top-tier, specialized brand. It's still debt-free, but now it's sitting on a pile of cash. It's a global player exporting to over 25 countries, and, get this, it still has that industry-leading profitability that caught everyone's attention way back in 2016.
What an incredible story. It's all about diligent research, a ton of patience, and just explosive growth. And to think, it all started with a single forum post. It really makes you wonder, after growing 14 times over, what on earth does a company like Shilchar do for an encore?